with the former Director General of Department of Mental and Oral Health. I'm best friend of DJ Chan. I see some familiar friends and many new friends from Asia. Now we started this symposium. The first speaker, please come here. She is the student of DJ Chan. She comes from Cambodia and now a student of National Central University, Taiwan. Please welcome the next one, please. First slide, please. Please welcome Woodrow Wade. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ken. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm very honored to give you a presentation on the topic as here in the face of commercial surrogacy, and I would like to make a focus on from the point of view, not the point of view, make a focus on the surrogate mothers, the women who have the commissioning parent to bear the children. So my paper aims to draw upon the ethical debate on the commercial surrogacy with a focus on the surrogate. The controversy is widely discussed, but this paper focuses only on three main objections: face-based objection, mother-child relation, and commodification objection. So we need to look back through the historical development of the surrogacy. So the first surrogacy cases is A and C. So in this case, the surrogate mother changed her mind at birth, and the biological father or the commissioning father was denied the custody, but he was granted the access on the welfare principle. So in this case, you can see that the commissioning father, he can afford to raise the child, but the surrogate mother, she doesn't want the child at all. In this case, because it happened in 1985, so the street judge in the Court of Appeal condemned the arrangement and described the act of surrogate as a form of baby farming. And the next case is the high-profile case of baby Kattans. The children, baby Kattan who was born from this case a child welfare agency intervenes and prevents the surrogate mother from relinquishing the baby to the intended parents. So in this case, the surrogacy arrangement was categorized as bizarre and unnatural. So in either case, the focus or the result from the court usually trying to label surrogacy practice as unnatural, as baby farming, and as like a weird thing to do that. And I think most people would know about this case because when we mention about surrogacy, we usually talk about baby M. So this is the renowned New Jersey case on the matter of baby M. And the Court of Appeal ruled that a commercial surrogacy contract was invalid because it was competing with the law and public policy of the state of New Jersey. The court found that the surrogacy arrangement between the biological mother and the biological father was potentially degrading to the woman because it involved the payment of money. The surrogacy contract in this case was classified as a form of baby battering and thus considered illegal, if not criminal. Nevertheless, the court awarded the custody of the child to the intended parents because he found it was the best interest of the child. So after these three cases, actually there are numerous commercial surrogacy cases occurring, but actually the debate would fall. There's a lot of debate if you go to look on the problem of commercial surrogacy. But I only pick up three debates, and I would like to do critiques and offer some of my idea on this debate. So the first objection is the face-based objection, and it was actually it thought back to Leon Kass. this is one of the very famous bioethics. He argued that the IVF is one of the methods that can be done when you seek for surrogacy practice. Yeah. So IVF was unethical in part because the process turned procreation into manufacturing. The moral wrong of manufactured procreation is rooted in the religious or metaphysical view of how reproduction should occur. So, and they make a quote on what a surrogate mother's hood is like, mainly from a religious point of view. So I kind of organized this sort of idea into an agreement line, like it is morally wrong to turn procreation into manufacturing of baby battering. Surrogacy turns procreation into manufacturing of baby battering. Therefore, surrogacy is morally wrong. But if you see this, when we see the agreement, we can see that on the religious ground, the seemingly explanation that turning a procreation into manufacturing is morally wrong, just merely because it is against the God will. But when we ask further, what is the God will? People will tell you that, well, it's what God wants. They keep repeating and make it redundant. So I would like to say that the previous one did not tell us why it is morally wrong to turn the procreation into, manufacturing, or let's say using the new technology to conceive children. So I would like to charge again the previous one that it begs the question. So let's move on to the second objection or debate. It's about the mother-child relation. So usually a surrogate is seen to distort the mother-child relation regardless of any reason she gave for entering into a surrogate arrangement. In one of the report at paragraph 8.11, the surrogate mother, in allowing herself to get pregnant with the deliberate intention of surrendering the child on birth, she is accused of having demonstrated the wrong way to approach pregnancy. Surrogacy arrangement involve up to 4 potential parents, including the gestational mothers and the commissioning parents, or let's say the commissioning couple. So it makes the usual relationship in the family even more complicated. So I rearrange the argument again. So the argument would go something like this, like it is morally wrong to distort the mother-child relationship. A surrogate, regardless of any reason that she entered the contract, distorts this relationship. Therefore, surrogacy is morally wrong. But on this ground, we can actually ask in what way that a surrogate distorts the mother-child relationship. We can ask whether does adoption distort such relationship? You may want to use your moral intuition. If you found that adoption does not distort such relationship, why surrogation is? Yeah. This is the question I would like to challenge to such an argument. So if we are to accept adoption, we have no ground to reject surrogacy even if it breaks down the traditional 3-in-1 mother-child relationship. Because usually if you are a mother of a child, you would be in charge of, you will have the genetic link with the child. You will rear the child and you will bring up the mother-child relationship. But in surrogacy practice, it will break up these 3 because the surrogate mother does not have any genetic link to the child. And the last debate is the commodification objection. So in this objection, I will raise about the opponent's view and the proponent viewpoint toward this debate. So the opponent of surrogacy, they try to make an analog between surrogacy and prostitution. So one of the leading figures in this opponent point of view is Andrea Dworkin. She's the American feminist series, and Dworkin argued that motherhood is becoming a new branch of the female prostitute with the help of scientists who want access to the womb for experimentation and power. Women can sell reproductive capacity the same way old-time prostitutes sold sexual one, but without the stigma of worry because there is no penile intrusion. It is the womb, not the vagina, that is being bought. Dworkin made a very strong rejection toward the practice of surrogacy. But the proponent would respond that this is an accusation of the paternalism, and pointing out that various instances in society, because we have people would have the limit. I mean, the society where limits have been set on individual freedom when necessary to protect the right of the vulnerable. And the leading figure is the Rosemary Tong, suggested that the surrogate expression of reproductive choices is the product of economic coercion, and that her real choice is between being poor and being exploited. So before I make some reflection on the third comment, I was asking, why one want to be a surrogate? So the primary reason is financial circumstances. This is quite respond to what Tom told us at the moment. They are from a wide range of geographical location, religion, linguistic group, and even castes. If you have ever noticed about surrogacy, you would find that the surrogate mother usually come from developing countries like Thailand, India, etc. And actually they can earn a lot comparing to their daily life living. Yeah. And women living in poverty often face a limited range of options for employment based on the lack of access to a wide range of career and cultural view about the appropriate role of the men and women. But in surrogacy contract or commercial surrogacy, usually women have or can exercise to some extent at least about their autonomy decision. So lastly, I would like to show some idea that surrogacy is different from prostitute, because usually prostitute involve oppression and sometimes violence. Prostitute is viewed as a one-side exploitative exchange rooted in manpower, but surrogacy involves voluntary needs to enter the contract. In other words, the surrogate mother and commissioning parents sat down, bargain, and reach a consensus through the agency. So in conclusion, the debate on the practice of commercial surrogacy is lagging solid ground. The focus on the surrogate viewpoint entails an important idea that society discriminates women, specifically the surrogate mothers, regardless of the nature of the surrogacy itself. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
We can have time for questions. Any questions?
Hello, thank you. Very interesting presentation, especially after tea. Yeah. Now, I just wanted to get some clarification. You mentioned about religion doesn't allow in your earlier slides. Which religion do you mean here?
Mainly Christian, but I just don't want, to be. I just don't want to point out a certain religion. But usually, when we discuss about a religion, we would refer to Christian.
Yeah. You are from Taiwan, right?
No, I'm from Cambodia.
Oh, Cambodia.
She studied.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I'm studying.
I just wanted to know the Eastern society. I mean, you're from Cambodia, so I consider you are Eastern. What is the perception of the Eastern society with regard to renting a womb? I'm also trying to think from the Indian civilization. What are the notions? Because womb is always been regarded as the cradle of invention. That's where the source of birth, life. So, so do you have any thoughts on that?
Actually, I think when people talk about surrogacy, they always equalize surrogacy into renting a womb. But what we have to ask is whether surrogacy is really renting a womb. Because some people are trying to distinguish surrogacy between like commercial and altruistic one. But actually the nature is the same. You are actually helping, I prefer to use the word help than renting. You are helping the couple to have their baby. So I think it's more like a matter of how you perceive things. And I think from let's say a Cambodian point of view, actually I have done some research from Cambodian perspective, but I didn't put it here. When people discuss about it, actually Cambodia not ban surrogacy, but it's not because it's rentable, because they are afraid of human trafficking. And actually, this sort of idea is, I mislead the real debate of commercial surrogacy itself. Yeah. So it's about a method of management of practice, but usually people try to talk about surrogacy on the management of practice, real practice, rather than what actually behind or what is the real nature of the problem itself. Yeah.
Only time for question or finish already? 时间到了吗？ because it's only 30 seconds.
All is welcome. All is welcome. Maybe all you can ask me later.
Professor Yu. Okay, yeah, at the end of the section we still save some time, okay? Or in the evening during the dinner time we can answer. Okay, because I have time. Thank you. There are so many questions. Okay, the next speaker please come to the front. It's difficult for me to pronounce name.
Good afternoon.
It's from Hanoi Medical University, National Institute of Mental Health, Vietnam. You pronounce your own name, please.
My name is Hương, Phạm Thị Thu Hương. Very difficult to say.
Okay. Welcome for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Happy Tan.
Yes.
For you.
For me?
Good afternoon, all the honored guests. It's my honor to stay here to talk about the topic ethic issue about mental health care in Vietnam. It's really a really big challenge for me when I received the invitation from Professor Julian Desai. He told me to talk about this topic. I know, and I found a lot of information from research in Vietnam, but I couldn't find any research. So this topic I will talk about what is the ethical issue in healthcare in general, and about what we have done here in Vietnam, and what's our challenges and our future. First of all, I think that this is from the ethical issue arise when not all value can be respected, and the value in conflict must be then be priority, and the essence of doing ethics is to certify reaching the values that are not respected. This is what I found from Margaret Sampillai, so I think that is very famous sentence. And ethics deal with right and wrong conduct, with what we are ought to do and what we are should not to do. And medical ethics concern how to handle moral problems arise out of caring of the patient, often clinical decision must consider more than the patient's medical condition. And I know that all of you know about the 4 pillars of medical ethics. If we talk about the autonomy, that is the patient's right to have decision making. And also the non-maleficence is that do no harm to the patient. And the third pillar is about the beneficence, is to promote the best for the patient. And the last is about the justice. Every patient has the equal right, equal treatment, and equal care. And also how about when the resource limited, we have to choose what is the priority to take care of the patient. And also we have to consider about the trust and the dignity and truthfulness for to take care for the patient. And what the problem happens when the patient autonomy conflict with the physician decision. So that is the time for us to have informed consent. This will help us to protect both medical staff and also the patient before we take care of them. and no medical intervention done for any purpose, and informed consent also serve as a significant protection to you against possible acceleration. And although we know that we have many common issues both in clinical practice and also in organizational. For example, in clinical practice, the problem comes from patient and family issue. For example, like patient right, vulnerable care, cost status, and applying cultural and citizen, also medication. And for the organizational, it comes from hospital and system. So what is the problem? It comes from allocation of the resource, conflict resolution, conflict of interest, and confidential research and public action. So how to make an ethical decision? This describe the case simply and hide the punishment fact, and also we have to specify the ethical dilemma. And what is the alternative that we could provide for the patient and also for the medical staff? And also we consider about the pillar of the ethical problem and propose a resolution. This thing is very important is that we review this choice critically. It's not only from our group, we have reviewed from the other group and have more idea to critical science to formulate its general maxim and review its possibility. And the very important thing is do the writing. And when we talk about the ethic issue, we also look about international culture of nursing. That is and the aspect for the nurse, like we talk about the work with the pupil and protect professional and co-worker. This is the aspect from nursing perspective, like responsibility to all the people require caring, and promote an environment which is the human right, value, custom, and spiritual belief of the individual, family, and community are respected. And so the nurse contribute to an ethical organizational environment and challenge the unethical practice and setting. The nurse sustain a collaboration team and respectful relationship with the co-worker in nursing and other fields. And how about the ethic issue in Vietnamese mental health care? For the first case standard in mental health care setting, we protect any harm from medication and for medical staff, and we respect the patient with the dignity, and the patient document all have to seek in security. And now we less restriction for the patient in acute psychosis symptom than before. And we protect the citizen right, the equal treatment with dignity and respect is the justice pillar. And protect the prevent physical abuse and sexual abuse for the patient. And for mental health illness treatment, we provide safety environment with patient in center and patient safety. And all the psychiatrists must have the license before they prescribe for the mental health patient. And all the prescribe must write on the patient document. And how to objective mental health diagnosis, not based on any bias reason. And history of mental illness is important, but not only a factor to assume that the individual got mental illness, knowing they take the crime. And the police have the process if they have any individual commit to crime, and they have to the evidence the individual have mental illness. The police will should take the patient to the mental health hospital, and they will have access by independent psychiatrists in the mental health hospital. And if the police prove that the patient got mental illness, they will have to stay in the hospital to treat for their mental illness. And this is all about community life. All the mental health illness patients have the right to live and work in the community, fulfill their competencies. And it means all the patients have the right to integrate to the community without stigmatizations. And what the challenge is for us in Vietnam, we don't have a lot of time with the patient. So for the therapeutic communication reduced, and also we concentrate more about general medical care with medication mostly. But now it's very trained. And in the hospital now I'm working for, it's one of the biggest hospital in the north of Vietnam. 100% of my inpatient has family member to take care of them. So it means that we depend a lot on the caregiver, the informal caregiver. This also have very pros and cons. And also for the many medical staff still lack of awareness about the ethical issue during when we work. And this is a future plan is that providing education and training medical staff about the ethical issue and the value of the ethical, and raising the awareness to protect both patient and medical staff. And to promote, I think that we need more academic research and paper published to raise the awareness of the government to concentrate more about this problem. And more research is needed to explore the ethical issue. And we need to establish the policy and procedure to support ethical issue in mental health care service. To conclude, I think that ethical issue in Vietnam is still developing. If we put more emphasis and awareness about this topic, with more research and more paper published, we will have more awareness from the government and also the medical staff. And thank you for the listening. Thank you so much.
Please stand. Okay, we have five minutes for one question. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. It was a really great presentation. I have a question. Like, for instance, like in the Philippines, we have certain beliefs that people with mental illnesses, for instance, are actually possessed by spirits, or some dwarves went inside their bodies. Are there also cultural beliefs in Vietnam similar to that prevent people from seeing a psychiatrist? So instead, they see a priest, they see a local healer, they see some, I don't know what traditional medicine person there is. So, and what are the steps being done to actually encourage these people in some way to refer people suffering from these disorders to an actual medical personnel? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Do you mean that's when for some person when they have do they have an alternative treatment or like the traditional medicine or actually in Vietnam? When many patients come to the rural area or from mountainous region, when they have psychotic symptoms, they think that from the ghost or from the other side of the world, and they don't take the people directly to the mental health hospital, and they can find something like fortune teller to help them, maybe after 2 or 3 days, even a week, and the patient come with us with a lot of wound on their body. They will hit the patient until the God come out of the patient, because they think that's not because the mental illness disease. They think that's from the God. So with now we have our government also have a lot of programs for community mental health. We provide to each province to raise the awareness of the community about what is the mental health illness. So when someone knows that the patient with in acute psychotic symptom, we'll take the patient to the mental health hospital. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Thank you, Ms. Fong, for your valuable presentation. One more question I wanted to ask you. If you write down such a very important challenge that you are facing in Vietnam, so do you have any preliminary idea that how you approach this challenge? Any suggestion based upon your current research?
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Desai. Yes, as I emphasize on the conclusion, now we need to have more research about ethical issues to get support from others, and especially from the stakeholder and from the government to raise the awareness about the ethical issue. And especially, I also need a lot of help from Europe, from the other countries that you can support us and give more information and more the good model for us we can apply. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more question? Okay, if no question, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. For the wonderful presentation. And the next speaker comes from Malaysia. It's from University of Malaysia, Head of Department, Associate Professor, Dr. Chiwang.
Jasima Besiwan Muhammad Razi.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is my pleasure to be here at Taiwan, my first visit. And before I begin with my presentation, I would like to thank to Professor Dr. Latifah because she has invited me to present my paper here. And when I look at the main topics, what I'm going to share with you, it falls under creating sustainable cities and communities. With that, my presentation today is a study on comfort and satisfaction among public employees. It is a comparison between conventional and green building. This is the outline of my presentation. And to begin with, I would like to introduce, if you can see here, sorry, because I like to be at the fore. If you can see here, in our plan at Malaysia, we have 11 plans where the ETP plans in 2 efficient physical infrastructure. Where is the pointer? To meet the increasing demand. Oh, you don't have the pointer. Okay. So when we talk, to make it more simple, when we talk about production, we always talk about who produced the products. When we talk about who produced the product, then we come to the workers. If we come to the workers, we always have to bear in mind whether they work in a good environment or not. So, if you can see here, based on the Malaysian GDP, we have 4.5% where 1.3 is registered as employee, and the job here we can see in Malaysian. Oh, the slide is not really very well organized. So we have 2 times multiplier effect, yeah, with what the Malaysian GDP has been announced. And types of construction here, we can see it is a social, amenities, infrastructure, residential and non-residential. And to share with you, it has been reported by UNEP in 2009 that 40% carbon CO2 has been emissions, 60% non-individual waste, and 70% electricity, then it increased in volume in material and water usage. So this is the Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm not going to explain in details because you can search or Google it online. So in 2010, Malaysia is moving to green building construction. And before I want to explain to you further, maybe we have to look a bit what is the problem statement actually. So level of satisfaction over indoor environmentals resulted from the inclusion of features contributed to green building do not always fit. You have to know that. The expectation of the design intent. Has been reported before. And low uptake of green building technology in government office. 7 government office, for example, will go for green building index (GBI), and it has been certified. Furthermore, public service has become such a big organization, require a broad span of floor area with the conducive indoor environment. See? And this is some literature review that has been done to show and to share with you regarding building services, the indoor environmental quality, and the satisfaction of the workers. This has been conducted in Australia. So the challenge is they claim that green building perform better than their conventional counterparts and are healthier for occupants. And also, based on the previous literature review, we found that it is also a sustainable practices in a few places where, for example, the availability of studies on the importance of social and economic aspect of green building are comparatively lean, which required more robust studies to validate the real performance of green building via post-occupancy evaluation. So, based on that, gap from the previous study showed that it is a limited comparative study in assessing level of comfort and satisfaction from the same respondent. So I want to stress here, our respondent is the same respondent where before they work in conventional building and they move to green building. See, this is the strength for this study. And the second one, what is the limited study in assessing sustainable practices incorporated with comfort and satisfaction, and common green building themes for previous study, the definition and scope, benefits and cost, ways to achieve green building, and the fourth one, limited number of papers investigated comfort and satisfaction in green building with reference to non-green buildings in Malaysia. This study has been done in Malaysia. So, based on that, we have 4 objectives here to investigate perceived comfort in conventional and green building, to investigate also perceived satisfaction in conventional and green building. The third one, to investigate the relationship between the perceived comfort and satisfaction, and the number 4, to identify sustainable practices in conventional and green building. So, the methodology that has been used in this study was based on questionnaire, where we distributed it to 312 respondents, but the return only 198. I understand that most of you who are in the social science, we have this kind of problem to get back the feedback from the respondent. So this is the framework of the research, where you have to know that we go for 2 types. There's no pointer. 2 types of building type. One is conventional and another one green building. So we will look on building services, where we will go for the design, the needs, the image, the safety, the cleanliness, layout, wayfinding or signage, and color and materials. Whereas for IEQ, we will look on lighting, acoustic, air ventilation, greenery facility and indoor natural setting, thermal, humidity and launch. This is the what we can call criteria that we investigate, and we want to see what the employee satisfaction and what is the sustainable practices. This is some profile, the background of the respondent, where you can see here we have female and male, the age 20 to 60 years old, the academic background at the secondary school, diplomas, bachelor, master's degree and PhD, and the service group. This is very interesting because we divide them into 4. First, management and professional, where they involve in technical part. The second one on administrative. The third one, support group, supporting staff, where involved in technical, and support group on administrative and operational. Their working background, for your information, some of them work less than 1 year, and some of them work more than 1 year. So all of them 100%, as I mentioned earlier. First they work in conventional building, then they move 100% of them go to green building. And now I'm going to discuss with you some results and discussion. Based on the first objective to investigate comfort in conventional and green building, we can see here we have 15 elements of comfort: building services comfort and indoor environmental or quality comfort. Then you can see here clearly that on conventional building, right, the conventional is in blue in color, whereas the green building is in green in color, right? So only safety score 80%, whereas green building design, image, safety, cleanliness, material score more than 80% based on comfort. So this one for comparison of indoor environmental quality or IEQ. So 3 times higher of IEQ on comfort in green building, right? Next, this is some statistic where you can see management and professional, they are lower comfort, not significant. Number 2, for management and professional in admin, also lower comfort, not significant. And the third one, lower comfort, not significant, also for support groups. And this is regarding workstation occupancy. Alright? And for objectives number 2, 6 elements has been investigated. And the results more than 80% higher satisfaction in happiness and working attitude in green building. Whereas largest difference over than 52% satisfaction in item safety and health standard compared to conventional building. This is the statistic. And for the third one, where we want to see multilinear regression, this is we are doing the comparison to know regarding conventional building assessment and multilinear regression. Okay, so employee satisfaction can significantly be predicted from the set of predictor, where we can see that clearly based on the statistic that has been done. And for here, this is to investigate sustainable practices in conventional and green building. So clearly we can see higher sustainable practices in item number 1 until number 4, whereas low sustainable practices for item number 5 and 6. This is results on comparison of comfort, satisfaction and sustainable practices, where we can see level of comfort very significant here between in conventional and green building, and conventional at the level of satisfaction also. So as a conclusion, we can see here 2 categories of comfort building services: indoor environmental quality, all 15 items rated very highly comfort in green building. And as a conclusion, I can say that low figure of average 30% of respondents feel comfort in conventional building, whereas the other way around happened to the green building. Alright? Alright, I'm going to finish it. Oh, before that, okay, based on IEQ, conventional building, we can see 80% higher comfort in items, lighting, acoustic, air ventilation and humidity, and lower comfort in item thermal and indoor natural setting. And many previous study, we can see that thermal contributes to discomfort, lack of occupants control over the air conditioning system. Like now I'm quite hot because I'm in front of you, and fully glazed. Okay. This is a few references, and I would like to say thank you very much to my master student Muhammad Naim bin Osman, and the Director General of Work and Employees Respondent at Public Work, and thank you for the grant from Humanities Research Cluster, University of Naya. Thank you very much, and I would like to say thank you also to the organizer for organizing this very fruitful of discussion.
Thank you.
I give back to you,
Okay.
Dr. Happy.
Any question?
Maybe because this is not on ethics.
It's interesting.
Yeah, but I'd like to ask you a question about samples, because you said that all the respondents were living in conventional houses and they all moved to a greenhouse, right? Green building, whatever.
They're working.
Yeah.
They're working from the conventional building. Then when their new building has been set up, so basically it's designed based on the green building. So all of the workers migrate to the new building.
Yeah, and then the results seem to be so obvious because, and if I do my own research, I will have the two very similar samples who are working in conventional and the others are working in green building at the same time. And then, but now you have very biased samples who moved to a new building. So it seems to be so obvious, even without doing any research, I would expect that the same, very similar research is what I think. So when we compare, when we do comparative research, I think we have to control the environmental variables. So, and then, but in this case, it seems to be really difficult whether this is the real result. Even the conventional building itself seems to be very biased because the reason they moved to another new building, maybe there were so many problems in conventional building already. So how can you generalize these comparison, by having very biased samples? Is my question.
Okay, thank you very much. That is a good question actually. Okay. The focus of this study actually, we want to see, because the previous research that has been done, they are using a separate, different samples from separate building and so on. It has been done. But now we want to see what is the perspective if the same respondent have a chance. This is very rare to get, right? Have a chance from the old, the conventional, when they move to the green. We want to see is there any different result from the previous study where we have two separate samples. Actually, I didn't highlight here. It is a difference between two samples and between one sample which migrate from old building to new building. For example, on lighting, you see, the previous research showed that the lighting play an important role, right? And some of them say it's no different. But in our research, we show the different. It is a different because in a new building, when you pass by a certain places, the light will light on. It like save energy, right? That is what we want to investigate actually, and this is just a small project, and we plan in future to have a more respondent from various type of building.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we go to the next speaker from Indonesia. This section from Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, now go to Indonesia. Miss, two of you, who will do the presentation? Okay, thank you. Okay, so Miss Puri, Okay, from University Gajah Medan, Indonesia. Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to present the topic, the female genital mutilation or female cutting. This issue has been attracting global interest for many years, and then I would like to bring up here our abstract to highlight that in Indonesia it still exists. Female mutilation is referring to all the procedure that is involving partial removal or total removal of the genital part or other injury to female genital organ for non-medical reason. The World Health Organization divided in 4 types. As you can see, there is 4 types that I'm sure most of you, having the background from medical, are very familiar. The first type is the clitoridectomy, and the second, the excision, the third, the infibulation, and then the fourth is the other part that is perhaps using different picking, piercing, and incising and scraping the genital area. Most of the cases in the world are from the many developing countries in Africa and also in Southeast Asia. And although in Southeast Asia is not considered the bigger part of the Africa, Indonesia in particular coming as the biggest in Southeast Asia, followed by Malaysia and South Thailand. I would like to highlight this because in Indonesia, the female genital mutilation that is performed is the type 1 and type 4. So it's not as severe as type 3 in Africa, but still, in Indonesia we continue to work with the human rights organization, with the government and other agencies to better educate people about female genital mutilation and how it is, if possible, can be done according to the SOP that acceptable law by the government. Now the girls between our baby between the age of 0 to 14 in Indonesia usually get the procedure done when they are under 6 years old, and the percentage is about 49%. These data come from the UNICEF and the WHO. As you can see the statistic, Indonesia also having 49% compared to other countries. And then 72% of the girls in Indonesia who has gone through the female genital mutilation is getting it done at the age 0 to 6 months. Usually, this is done mainly in the rural areas, heavily in the province of Gorontalo and in the Sulawesi Island. So we have the highest numbers of female genital mutilation from the island in Sulawesi over there. And then usually in that area, the parents are the one who request this procedure to be done, influenced by perhaps community and religious leader. 81% of the FGM is requested by the parents, and then as you can see, the other family members, 60%, and then religious leader and traditional leader. The government in 2006 banned the FGM and then said that it is prohibited. However, in 2010, the Minister of Health issued a regulation that it can be carried out at the request of parents and family as long as it's carried out by a licensed medical professional. Since that, in every public hospital, then there is a certain department that will carry out the FGM and then have a specific SOP to be followed. However, in the practice, especially in the rural area, like in Gorontalo, the hospital is not adequate enough to provide with a licensed medical professional and perhaps a sterilized room. And so therefore the procedure cannot be done exactly following the SOP. This is where the concern is highlighted, because then there will be different effect that's perhaps than what is usually just not so severe. Because of the campaign of the human rights and other international regulation, after the 2010 Minister of Health regulation that prohibited all type of severe and grave female genital mutilation, in 2014, another Minister of Regulation is being issued to prohibit the female genital mutilation in Indonesia, especially for underage. The social challenges and issue in Indonesia becoming, although it's prohibited by law, there is still no punishment if it's been carried out until now. Therefore, the Committee of Human Rights and Child Protection Organization in Indonesia continue to work persistently to perhaps better educate the people about FGM, and also to highlight and request that the legislation make a law that is punishing the medical professional or the other part that is enforcing the female genital mutilation in Indonesia. Even though that we are continue to work, this is, I would like to highlight, in Indonesia is a culture and also tradition, like in many other countries. It is accepted, and then therefore it cannot be eradicated all of a sudden. It's also a social issue that needs to be tackled by the government and by the society. And then one of the ways is to educate in an efficient manner about the FGM, while of course progressing, move forward with the legislation or the law that helps support the situation of the finally maybe one day to eradicate the FGM in Indonesia. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Very interesting presentation. Any question?
Interesting presentation. I have two questions, madam. The first one is, in the case of Indonesia, what is the reason that families promote this FGM? You know, also coming from Malaysia, I know that the Berkatan, if I'm not mistaken, and this is the one Berkatan, right? But you have circumcision for men and also circumcision for women, right? Are you talking about that? I mean, there is also a religious connotation to this as well, a religious practice. But you did not mention anything on that in your presentation. So I'm just wondering whether it has to do with religious practice, or is it a practice which is not in the religion in that sense?
There are two reasons. I think you are right. Most of the reason is because of religious reason, but there's some part in Indonesia, there's also for culture, but that part is smaller. The bigger part is because on the religion reason that I think is not understood well. Because actually, to my knowledge, actually the Muslims do not require that. Is in religion as like a male circumcised and there is a female one. However, it is not requested to be done like an FGM. It's just, to my knowledge, is a scrapping. So which will not do any harm. However, when it's done in the rural area, when there is no support of the medical, licensed medical professional, it can be the different way. So it is cultural, and it is also by religious pressure. The reason why parents, 81% parents request that, because as you know, in the small village, the religious leader and then the head of the tribe or the community is holding quite a powerful position where the family who do not follow them is not accepted in the society. Maybe not in the big city, but if you're talking about the villages and the remote area, that's how it is. So the family then being influenced heavily or forced to do that in order to be accepted in their society. So, and also once they've done it, then everybody in the village will know they have done their circumcise for their daughters or their usually baby girl. That's why also the majority of the female cutting is done under 6 months old. So it's kind of things to get done after the baby is born. There's 40 days of celebration, and then the next thing, if it's female, then the parents will feel obligated to do it. Is that answer your question, sir?
Thank you. I have a comment on that because I have some experience working in Africa. Indeed, in Africa, what I observe is that the female circumcision, they call the female circumcision, and most of them are quite apart with traditional or culture, and the other is about the religious. But even in the country I'm working, is a Christian base, but they still accept the female circumcision. So we do some investigation on that. Indeed, they find that the parents said, I would like to deprive of the satisfaction of sexual behavior from the girl. They are not worth to deserve the satisfaction during sexual experience. So they deprive of that satisfaction. So this is a kind of that, they find that it should be a kind of the male to enjoy the sexual experience, not the female. So this is what I observe. This is mostly not only on the religious basis, but they have some, the sexual equalities. So this is what I observed in the African. That's why they did early female circumcision for the baby, for the female baby, yes, for the girls, yes.
Yeah, you are. If I may add, you're correct. In the 4 major countries in Africa, that is the reason. And I think part of the reason also in Indonesia is they say that by doing that, it protects the girls and then prevent the girls of extramarital issues later on when they are grown into young women.
But there's some cases I observed is that after the husband died, the families will request the lady to get the female circumcision. For example, the closure of the vagina. Yes, we have cases because the menstrual cycle remains in the uterus. So that's why a serious infection and after sepsis died, because we find that the vagina was circumcised.
Yeah.
So this is what we observe. But for the baby, what we concern is about they avoid them to be early exposure of the sexual. But for the widows, they did some in the rural area. Yes.
That's why I think the issues that we highlight is not about religion or culture, but this is actually against the human right and the woman's right. So against the human right, I think we all know we all to be treated equally, female and male, and about the woman's right, I think lighter tone, I think women have the right to enjoy as well like men. So I think that's why from that side, thank you Dr. Pika for agreeing with me. Okay, So, and also from the child organization and child protection, being a minor and then in some certain cases is below 6 months old, we really need to protect them of what's happening and then what's getting done in their bodies.
Okay?
Yes,
Can
Okay.
I ask?
Excuse me. Because the last speaker is not coming, he had fever, so we can ask the previous four speaker, can you all sit in front and then you can bring question to anyone you want to ask for 10 minutes, okay? You continue the question, okay?
Okay. And
Okay, come down please, thank you. The previous four speaker, please come. Come here, please.
yeah, I was so shocked because the FGM is only in Africa. I saw that, but it's happening in Indonesia. And also there is another country in Asia. It's happened the FGM. Or also I want to ask that the government do something for this for the FGM. The government in Indonesia.
Yeah. According to the data that we had collected, Indonesia is in Southeast Asia because our population is big. We are one of the biggest country in Southeast Asia in the term of numbers. Therefore, the numbers of FGM cases in Indonesia are, of course, much higher than the other countries. And the second country coming after us is Malaysia, and the third is Thailand, especially the southern part. So yes, it is still happening, not as much and as many cases reported like in Africa. As highlighted in my presentation before, by law, the government has prohibited in 2014 at the urge of the WHO and other organizations internationally. However, there is still no punishment being carried out by individuals that's carrying out the task or by the parents who requested. So this is something I think that the society and all the organizations will work on it, because I think if they introduce a kind of punishment, it will discourage this practice even further, which this is what we all hope.
Yeah, I remember you want to ask the first speaker.
This is about commercial surrogacy. In India, there is infertility treatment by both allopathy and native medicines. So there aren't people who go for surrogacy in India. That's what I wanted to say. It's not a question, it's just a comment.
There is no one going for surrogacy service there?
No, in India, there is no surrogacy, which is very popular. Because infertility treatment is going on. Because nobody wants to adopt children from any ashram. Where people throw their children and go away. So they go for what you call infertility treatment. Doctors and even ordinary people. They go to allopathy doctors or they go to native medicinal doctors. There are so many hospitals, allopathy as well as native medicines hospitals, where they try to cure infertility. In India,
This is a comment, right?
it's a comment.
Yes, thank you for the comment, but actually I start the research on surrogacy. I start the research from India. Actually, if you type surrogacy, you will find a lot of results about the surrogacy mothers in India. And I'm not so sure, is it, because you're talking from a native, like a local, from a local point of view, but from what we have done, from the research that I have done, actually, surrogacy still exists in India, and a lot. I must help. This is from the research, and actually it's even more than in Thailand. So these two countries usually are the two most popular targets when we do research on surrogacy. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is now maybe some words about the situation in Central Asia. I represent here the big area of Central Asia. And you know, the majority of people are Muslims. For example, Tajikistan, 100% the religion of our people is Muslim. But no any cases, as you mentioned in your report. So maybe the main cause is the culture, but not religion. It's my own view.
May I comment on it? In my experience as a pediatrician for almost 50 years, 50 years, I'm very active in the Indonesian Pediatric Society. Never being discussed. My question is, how, where, and when did we get the data? And because the largest archipelagos in the world, so that's very, very various of region as well. So that maybe you have to take the information in more detail, so that it's misleading. Thank you.
Yeah, the data that we took, it's from the UNICEF and then is from WHO. I cited the reference, but however you're right, it's the last data is 2015 and 2013. This is from the. I'm sorry.
The locations of the studies.
Yes, the location of the study is Africa and Southeast Asia and Gorontalo. In Indonesia, they say in Sulawesi and Gorontalo.
Only in Sulawesi.
Yeah, so the highest rate, yeah. They take it as a broad in Indonesia, but concentrated in Sulawesi mainly.
Maybe you have to read it more carefully and deeply because
the study, yes. Thank you.
I just want to make a short comment about when you were saying female rights, and I was thinking, what about transgendered rights? A female baby, female to male, if that child is genetically mutilated, and when that child grows up, it would not be able to do any reconstructive surgery for the whole issue, which is becoming a very important issue in discussion in this topic about transsexual people.
You're right. If it's done when the baby is so young, and if later on that they cannot do anything, either other procedure, because if it's severe, then it's finished for the child, which is definitely not what we hope.
Possible to talk about female rights when a good proportion of babies are not necessarily female or male in the conventional sense. The brain sex is not out of some physiological sense.
Yes, I'm not able to answer that because yes, but it is definitely an issue and a concern that is come next after that, for sure. Yes.
I would like to ask a question about the commercial surrogates. I mean, I'm not considering about the religious matter, but I would like to say about if the surrogates took get the pigments, and if the baby have a deformity, or because whenever you take the pigments, you have risk. So who will be responsible for the risk? And this is a legal issue. If there's some risk for the mothers, is she able to terminate the pregnancy? Or if there's some deformity, okay, who can make the decision or who can't?
Actually, in commercial surrogacy, why I have to take out the important point about commercial? Because if it is commercial, there will be contract. If there's contract, then the detail of who will determine if there is deformity if the fetus got deformity, then they should write clearly that who can decide about that issue. Yeah. So this is the difference between it is a pure, let's say a pure or altruistic surrogacy, or it is commercialized one. Yeah. I don't know if I answer, but because I actually my research focused more on the commercial surrogacy. So there's contract, and the contract will involve the surrogate mother, the commissioning parents, and the agency, with the third person, and possibly also, not possibly, I think also the physicians. Yeah, because they have to involve in the process, and all the parties, shareholder need to take.
Yeah, this is what I mentioned because it seems that this is under the contract, so this is the business. So, but it seems a part of the business override the ethical consideration. Override. This is very serious issue because, for example, I received $10,000 US. Okay, if I said, okay, if there's some deformity, okay, I request to terminate the gestation. So this is an ethical issue. This is, even though it has been written on the contract, but this is against the ethics.
Yes, I understand, but what I focus, even though how should I put it? Well, even though I talk about commercial surrogacy, but I talk about ethical point of view. So when it also, of course, there's a connection, or there's a focus on the contract one, but it's about the method of management, or the method of practice, real practice. So we actually can fix or discuss about the detail later. But what I want to talk when I discuss about surrogacy issue is that whether this practice should be allowed. Because now a lot of people would think that no, it should not, because it's for a lot of things. It's for my religious, it's for about the mother-child relationship, and it commodifies women, and etc. They talk about this. What I view this thing as a sided issue, and they try to mislead the nature of surrogacy practice, because actually surrogacy practice is quite a whole for the entire couple. Yes.
Okay, last question. Last question, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a question which all of you may respond to. I'd like. In the topics we've heard about satisfaction of housing, about mental health, about lack of choice for female genital mutilation, and forced choices in terms of surrogacy or reproduction. So, is the fundamental question here about individual choice and how much, when we should have choice, and the right of somebody else to take that away from you because of some cultural restraints, some religious constraints, some pursuits. So, should we stop people taking away choice at a certain age? And I found, so maybe I'd like your reflections from each of you about the question of choice and ethics in your field. So, for example, if you say that I'm mentally insane, you forbid me from asking questions. If you say that I have to live in this house for the rest of my life because that's my fate, then I have no choice. If you say that I can sell my womb, or would want to think about the old case of a wet nurse. A wet nurse was a nurse who provided milk. So 100 years ago, before this infant formula, you either die if there's no milk from a wet nurse or not. So the wet nurse was in a sense being bought for her milk, the same as the surrogate is being bought for her womb. And then the choice how can we simply forbid practices to, as Irina was saying, to mutilate both girls and boys when they're born? Shouldn't you wait until they're older? So maybe some questions for all of you.
Okay, short answer.
Yeah, very short. I think because although I'm doing bioethics, but I'm under philosophy department. So a quick answer to that would be, as long as you have rationality, so you can make choice. And if you may ask what about children and etc. But yeah, they have the potentiality, or they have the potential to have the rationality. So by that time or before that time, the parent can make, or the parent can be their guidance. Yeah. Very short answer.
Will you allow me? Yeah, that's for you. Because
we have to hear from each of them first.
No matter who you are, where you come from, you fight for your right. That's my answer.
Yeah, you asked the same question with Dr. Chung when I came back from my presentation. Yeah, he talked about how about the right of the patient in mental health units when the patient came with us and they want to go back home to meet the fortune teller to pray. Yeah, he asked me and we discussed about this and you asked me the same. And so we talk about what the patient choice. I think it's really difficult when we work in the clinical setting. Yeah, maybe we have informed consent between the contract between the medical staff and the patient. But I think sometimes it's really like dilemma. It's a dilemma. So maybe it comes from our heart. It's based on the law. So what is we have to base on the situation that we face directly with the patient. Yeah, this is my question that I answer. Thank you.
Yes. Because you spoke about female genital mutilation, circumcision. I think that is really good because in India, if you see the newspapers from Delhi to South India, to the east and to the west, there are so many children who are sexually assaulted and some of them die. Some of them are taken to the hospitals. It happens in India, too much. But if only there is genital mutilation or circumcision, I think children will be fine. That's my comment.
So that's not the question right now. With your question, I think when you are at the age where you are able to take decision, people should not take that right from you. However, when it's involving children, when the parents are in care of the children to take the answer, then I think the responsibility will lie with the parents. And then of course, with that the parents can take the right decision. If the parents are rational, with the good help, I think the parents will be the taking decision for the children. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the four speakers and thanks for the audience. I feel very happy to be the moderator for this section. Thank you.